Hey guys, this is my second time recording this video. I was so out of order before, but I decided to do another author collection video. I did Stephen Law's earlier, even though that wasn't a real collection video, because it was very short because I don't own a lot by him. I thought I owned more, but it turns out I have a duplicate of his, so I only own 4 books by Stephen Law's. But this one I own 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 books. I own 11 books by this author, and that is Robert R. McCammon. I've read 4 books by him, being Swan Song, Boy's Life, Stinger, and They Thirst. I had different opinions on all of the books. Boy's Life is one of my favorite books of all time. Swan Song's definitely my favorite dystopian book, the only dystopian book I've ever read, but still, that doesn't, discount it at all. Like, I won't read The Stand because I hear it's so much like Swan Song, but worse. So, but I have to say my favorite by him, so far, is Stinger. I love Stinger. I like Boy's Life a lot, don't get me wrong. Boy's Life is one of my favorite coming-of-age stories of all time. But Stinger just had like the sci-fi horror element to it that I liked. It doesn't say that it's a horror, but all of his books that I have here are pretty much the same, except for 2 of them are Avon. But everything here is like pocket books. So, yeah. I only have 2 Avon books, and I think I consider the Avon to have better covers than the pockets. That's just me though. Like Nightboat and Bethany's Sin have at least I think it's Bethany's Sin. Oh no, don't fall over, guys. Yeah, Bethany's Sin. But without further ado, Robert McCammon is considered one of the best writers of his time. He was up there with Stephen King for the longest time. I don't know whatever happened to him ever since. I think he's still releasing books. I don't know if they're any good or not, but he definitely has written a bunch of great books. I have a few here that I want to read, but I'm going to start with the first one I think everyone should read, and that is definitely Boy's Life by Robert R. McCammon. My copy is like this. You got the boy riding his bike. I forget what he called the bike in the story, but the bike has a name, I think. You can see where I got it from. I got it from Brown's Family Bookstore, my favorite bookstore. This is just about a boy's life and finding joy in it. There's a few characters I absolutely love in this book. There's a lady called The Lady, which I don't know which came first, Fear by Ronald Kelly or Boy's Life by Robert R. McCammon, but they both have similar things in them. Like in Fear, it has the granny woman, which is a black lanky woman who has these powers, and then in Boy's Life, they have the lady, who's this black lady, and she has these powers. So it's basically they have that shared. I don't know if one copied the other or one was inspired by the other. This book came out in 1991. Fear came out in I don't have Fear on me. Hold on one second. No, Fear's gone. I shipped it to the author. Actually, hold on one second. Oops, I accidentally sat on my book, guys. Oh, man, this thing is getting so many bends in it. My mom's books look like this, where they're all folded on the edges and stuff like that. This is how my mom reads. My mom reads like this and bends every book she owns. And it looks like I'm doing the same. Like mother like son, I guess. Every boy's best friend is his mother, or whatever the quote is by Norman Bates. I looked up Boy's Life and I looked up Fear by Ronald Kelly. This came before Ronald Kelly's Fear, so maybe Ronald Kelly had some inspiration. I think Ronald Kelly lists Robert R. McCammon as a huge inspiration. So, you know, 3 years after this book came out, Fear came out, and they both have similar arcs with dark ladies who have powers. One has literal powers, the other one has like faux pas powers, I guess. Like her powers aren't exactly real, but they definitely help in the story. Like she puts her magic powers on the bike, which makes it faster, but not really. It's just the boys' interpretation. But Boy's Life is my third favorite coming of age novel of all time, if not my fourth, because I read The Voice of the Night by Dean Koontz, and I absolutely adored that book. I keep thinking about Dean Koontz's The Voice of the Night, and the more I think about it, I think it knocks Boy's Life down a notch. So when I do my update for my top 5 and do my top 10 list, I will tell you if this book is still number 3 on the list. The only 2 books above this one is Fear by Ronald Kelly and The Traveling Vampire Show by Richard Lehman. Those are also very good books. Check them out. But Boy's Life by Robert R. McCammon, definitely like his best work other than Stinger, because I love Stinger a lot. And I keep flip-flopping between the two. Like one day I'm going to say Stinger's better. The next I'm going to say Boy's Life is better. It's just a very hard one for me to decide between. Most Robert R. McCammon fans will say Boy's Life is his best work he's ever written. I'm just the odd man out when I say I like Stinger a little bit more. But again, it always switches around. One day I'm saying Boy's Life is Robert McCammon's best work. The next I'm saying that Stinger is. So, but that's Boy's Life. There's a lot of cool scenes in this, like one with an alligator. There's one where a car crashes. I'm not gonna spoil anything for you guys, but those things happen in the book, and when they happen, it's amazing. I love this book a lot. And people might be like, well, if it's your one of your favorite Robert R. McCammon books, why isn't it number 1 on your coming of age list? Well, there's 2 more coming of age stories, or maybe 3 more, that I just find a little bit better than this one. I also like shorter books, so seeing this big chunk of a book that comes in around that comes in at 580 pages, or wait, no, that's acknowledgments. It comes in at 578 pages. So it's a big book, and it's a good one, a very good one. It's definitely a commitment, but if once you commit to it, you're not gonna be let down. It's a very good book, and a lot of people don't consider this horror, but there are some horror elements in it. So, and Robert McCammon mostly writes horror, so, well, not really. He writes literary fiction, to be honest, but yeah, Boy's Life. Next, you got this big chunk of a book, this brick, like literally I could make a house out of it. If I had more copies of this, I could make a whole house. This book is not in the best condition, as you can see. I got it at Brown's Family, I think. Brown's Family bookstore, maybe. Either that or I got it in an auction. I can't remember. But this book comes in at 956 pages. Holy cow, guys. This book is so big. But I listened to the audiobook. There's no way I could ever actually physically read this book. This book is way too big for me. I am not at that reading level where I can sit through this big chunk of a book. It would take me all freaking year to finish this book. And I'm not going to commit myself to a year book. But I listened to the audiobook, and it took me like 3 weeks to read or listen to, because I listened to it at work. And gosh, this is a commitment you should take. It's an amazing book. It's dystopian, and I loved it so much. I think he did it perfectly. Everyone says The Stand by Stephen King is the better dystopian tale, but I find it hard to be able to top this. It can be boring at times, sure, because of the length of the book, but I just found it very entertaining once I got into it. There was characters like you loved characters, you fell in love with them, then they were gone the next moment, and then you fell in love with more characters, then they were gone. And that was a kind of a knock I had on it, is because the characters would always, like, you'd fall in love with the character, then they die, and it's like you keep adding characters just for them to die, and not many characters live from the beginning to the very end of the book. Only like maybe 3 characters do. I'm not gonna name them, but very, very good book. I really enjoyed it a lot. I already told you what it's about, so we'll move on to the next book. And that is Stinger by Robert R. McCammon. I already told you guys, this is my favorite book by Robert R. McCammon. It's about, so this alien crashes in this small town. And turns out this alien is being chased by another alien called Stinger. And this alien goes into the body of a little girl, and in order to like protect itself. And Stinger's looking for this little girl, and if you've ever read, I haven't read it, but if you ever read Under the Dome by Stephen King, that same thing, that same premise with the dome going over the whole town happens in this book, and no one can escape, and Stinger's killing all these people off. So great book. I enjoyed it thoroughly. There's some gang scenes in it, and I like the gang scenes. This is one of my favorites by him. It is my favorite by him, and I think more people should check it out. Now, I'm gonna say that was my favorite, but my least favorite book by Robert R. McCammon, and it's like, I rated it like 2 stars here on YouTube. That's They Thirst. Didn't care for it whatsoever. The only character I liked turned into a babbling idiot. So I didn't like They Thirst. I don't own They Thirst. Like, after I listened to the audiobook, I decided I'm not even gonna bother purchasing it because I just don't care for it. But anyways, now we're off to some books I haven't read before. Mine by Robert R. McCammon. I hear great things about this book. As you see, little cover art thing. I don't understand why they did that, but yeah. This is I don't know what this is about. Sorry, my phone is going off, guys. Sorry about that. What is this about? Mary Terrell, aka Mary Terror, is a scared survivor of the radical 60s. Once a member of the fanatical Storm Front Brigade, Mary now lives in a hallucinatory world of memories, guns, and murderous rage. Laura Claiborne is a successful journalist, wife of a stockbroker with a BMW and house in the right Atlanta suburb. Her marriage foundering, Laura hopes that her newborn son David will make her life everything it ought to be. When Mary Terror steals Laura's baby from the hospital, a journey of the damned begins. Through an America of wandering misfits, seedy motel rooms, 60s radicals disguised by plastic surgery, and a former FBI man out of the personal vengeance, as Laura Claiborne closes in on Mary Terror, she will have to think like her, act like her, even kill like her. So that's Mine by Robert R. McCammon. Now this book, since it's so small and so pretty, I might consider reading this sooner than later. But that is Nightboat by Robert R. McCammon. Just look at that pretty cover. Now, from what I hear, this is a World War II book with vampires. I don't know if I'm wrong. I don't know if it's right. But look at the sides are painted red. That is so cool. I just love this book to death. I haven't read it yet, but it looks like a fascinating read. I'll read the small synopsis on the back. They are coming to seduce the living and devour the dead. Deep under the calm waters of the Caribbean lagoon, salvage diver David Moore discovers a sunken U-boat entombed in the sand. Then David hears something that twists his soul in utter terror, the deep hollow boom of something hammering with feverish intensity, something trying to get out. The night boat. It won't stay down. So that's The Night Boat. I cannot wait to read this book. I'm gonna probably slip it in into my coming of age TBR because I take breaks between some books. When I need a break from coming of age, I will slip a book like this in. Let me reorganize this a little bit because I'm starting to have books everywhere because I have a lot of this author. Alright. Next is a short story collection called Blue World by Robert R. McCammon, of course. Cool cover, by the way. Mine's not in that bad of condition. I have two books that are next that are in great condition, and I don't know which one to keep. I was thinking about doing a raffle or a giveaway or something for you guys, but I'm not sure. But yeah, Blue World by Robert R. McCammon. It's a short story collection. I don't know what stories it contains. Maybe I can check. Yellow Jacket Summer, Makeup, Doom City, my bad. Night Crawlers, Pin, Yellow Chelly's Cage, A Scream Man, He'll Come Knocking at Your Door, Chico, Night Calls from Green Falcon, The Red House, Something Passed By, Blue World, which is what it's called, and that's it. So that's Blue World. Alright, next is Ball by Robert R. McCammon, of course. I heard a little bit about this book and They Thirst when one of the priests is reflecting back on his past. He reflects back to this, so I don't know if it gave away this book or not, but there's like a bell or something in this book. Let me read the back for you. There's also another back here. I don't know which one to read actually. I think they're the same back. Yeah, they're the same back. So let me read it for you guys. Actually, let me read. I own this cover. Cool, right? Then I own this cover, which is a little different. As you can see, that's the difference. The sunrise is bigger, and Robert R. McCammon's name and the title of the book are bigger. I don't know which one's the first printing and which one's the second printing, but they're both by Pocket Star Books or whatever it's called. Pocket Books, not Pocket Star. Sorry, one of these might be Pocket Stars. I think yeah, Pocket Star Books was the Boy's Life one, but yeah, let's read the back for you guys. He is the foul seed of evil, the dark prophet who sees what is, and creates what will always be. Across the earth he spreads his fiendish blasphemy, unleashes his holocaust, proclaims himself Messiah. But he is Baal, the prince of demons. Fear him. He will never be destroyed. From Robert R. McCammon, best-selling author of Stinger and Swan Song, comes a tale of blood-curdling horror, where the powers of darkness challenge man to the ultimate battle, and the winner loses all. So that's Ball. I own 2 copies. So if someone wants one, maybe I'll give it to you guys, or I'll sell them. I'm not sure yet. I haven't decided. I think I'm already going to give away a book in my Stephen Laws video. But here's the next book, and this is a very pretty book as well. It doesn't really come out on camera very well, but the edges are painted red. And this is Bethany's Sin. And this book is definitely the superior cover. I found it as the superior cover. I like the cover a lot. The Black Stallion. But Bethany's Sin, what is it about? Well, let's figure it out. This is going to be a long video, by the way, so I apologize. There's only 2 more books left in this collection, but yeah, hang in there. For Evan Reed, his wife Kay, and their small daughter Lori, the beautiful house in the small village was too good of a bargain to pass up. Bethany's Sin was a weird name, but the village was quaint and far from the noise of pollution of the city. But Bethany's Sin was too quiet. There were no sounds at all, almost as if the night had been frightened into silence. I don't know if you guys heard that, but something went on in the background. And I just remembered, I read one more, there's one more Robert R. McCammon book I read, and I'll get that in a second here. Evan began to notice that there were very few men in the village, and the most of them were crippled. And then there was the sounds of the galloping horses, women on horses riding in the night. Soon he would learn that the superhuman secret, and soon he would watch in terror as his wife, then his daughter, entered the sinister cabal. An ancient evil rejoiced in Bethany's sin, a horror that happened only at night and only to men. So that's Bethany's Sin. This one, I don't like the cover for this one. There's a very cool cover with the skeleton crawling out of the drywall, and that would be Mystery Walk. Don't like my copy at all. I mean, it's a cool copy, don't get me wrong. It's a cool cover, but I just like the other one. I find it far more superior. Let me read this one for you. From deep within the empty house of a murdered family, Billy Creekmore hears his name whispered and is drawn inside. At the revival meeting in Alabama, Wayne Falconer demonstrates his miraculous healing powers, while demons feast and grow on his soul. On separate journeys through the deep south to Chicago, from a world of innocence to a world of evil, greed and lust, the two young men discover their manhood and fuel their deadly rivalry. On a scorched slab of desert, they will meet in a fear of and unite their extraordinary powers against the raging, unshackled spirit, a walking, hungry corpse of the Shapes Changer. So that's Mystery Walk. Very cool sounding book. I think it's a coming of age, if I'm not wrong. I think I saw Are You Into Horror do a top list of his favorite coming of age novels or books. This one is definitely on that list, I believe, and I think it's one that I need to, it's about time I read. And then this is the last book, but not the last book, because I own 2 audiobooks, which is one is They Thirst, and I'll get to the other one in a second here. But this one is called Wolf's Hour, and this is one that I want to read very, very badly. Unfortunately, I do not like the audiobook for it. I think I own this audiobook, but I could not get into it because due to the now, I have nothing wrong against British narrators. In fact, I listened to a couple British narrators here on YouTube. I just like the tone of their voices when they read like older, darker fiction. But when they're reading newer fiction like this, I'm a little turned off by it. So I don't like the audiobook for this book. But I'm thinking about giving it a read very soon. Because it's a werewolf book. And if you don't know, this channel started off where I started a werewolf TBR, and I've read The Howling, I read a Steve Vance book, I read another werewolf book, and then I stopped. I read 3 werewolf books and stopped. So this was one of the ones that I wanted to read next. What's it about, you might ask? Well, it's basically about a parachuting werewolf that goes into World War II to fight Nazis. But I'll tell you the back. Or read the synopsis for you. He is Michael Gallatin, master spy, lover, and werewolf. Maybe to change shape with lightning speed, to kill silently or with savage, snarling fury, he proved his talents against Rommel in Africa. Now he faces his most delicate, dangerous mission, to unravel the secret Nazi plan known as the Iron Fist. From parachute jump into occupied France, to the lush corruption of Berlin, from the arms of a beautiful spy to the cold embrace of a madman's death machine, Gallatin draws ever closer to a ghastly truth about the Iron Fist. But with only hours to D-Day, he is trapped in the Nazis' web of destruction. So that's Wolf's Hour. And the final book I own is an audiobook called Usher's Passing by Robert R. McCammon. Totally forgot about this book. So this is, I've read 5, or technically I've read 5 Robert R. McCammon books. 3 of those were, well, actually all of them were audiobooks. I listened to Stinger, Boy's Life, Swan Song, They Thirst, and Usher's Passing on audiobook. People highly, highly recommend Usher's Passing if you like Robert R. McCammon. They say Usher's Passing is one of his best works other than Boy's Life. And I went into it with high expectations because I liked all of his stuff so far. I've read 4 books, and the only one that I didn't like was They Thirst, and I didn't think it could get worse than They Thirst, but I was wrong. I did not like Usher's Passing one bit. I thought it's overhyped. I did not care for it. But maybe it's for you guys. It's definitely not for me. But like I said, I'm a little different. I don't like a lot of the most popular stuff, even though I like Swan Song a lot, and a lot of people like Swan Song. I'm not a big fan of Usher's Passing. I just thought it was boring, no likable characters. It just, like, the fun scenes never happened. And I know a lot of reviewers will say that, like, oh, the characters weren't likable, and the characters don't need to be likable, but at the same time, I didn't care what was going to happen to them at all. Like, the cool aspect of the book never really got attention. Like, there's this pumpkin man going around and snatching boys and killing them and feeding them to something. And they never really get into that aspect until the end of the book, and it's like breezed upon. Like, it barely, taken it into account. But maybe you guys will enjoy it more than I did. I did not enjoy it at all. But that's just me. Tell me what you think of Robert R. McCammon. I enjoyed most of his books. I'm 3 for 5 with Robert R. McCammon. Boy's Life, Stinger, and Swan Song are all great. I should say all were great. They Thirst and Usher's Passing were not for me. And that's okay. Some are misses, some are not. In fact, I think Robert R. McCammon looks back at They Thirst and he didn't like it that much either. So I'm not alone. The author himself thought it was an early work of his, so he was just getting better. He was getting there, is what I'm trying to say. He would eventually write Boy's Life, which is a masterpiece. Stinger, in my eyes, is a masterpiece. It's a great sci-fi horror novel, and I love sci-fi horror, so that's just me, though. Tell me what you think of Robert R. McCammon. What books do you own? What books have you read by him? I will talk to you guys in the next video. I hope you have a good day and a spooky night, and I'll see you in the next video, like I said before. Bye, guys.
Now I am become death, the destroyer of